Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to episode 187 of Sticks in the Six podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Forbes, here with my fine host, co-host Peter Barricchini. How you doing this afternoon, Peter?
Doing good. Love that you called me fine. I kind of feel like I am just fine sometimes, but yeah, I'm doing good, man. Obviously, hectic week with the Maple Leafs and everything. A lot of news to cover, especially with a big trade that came down late last week. A lot of implications surrounding the Maple Leafs, what they're going to do about the deadline right now. So everything's getting amped up right now.
Yeah, no, and it's the fine flow, buddy. It's the fine flow, and that's why I got mine covered up because mine's more of like grown out this way. So I'm
Love it.
got to cover
I
it up,
actually need to
keep it.
get it trimmed out, knowing that it's a little bit long. I need to keep it nice and clean and tight. So
Yeah, I hear you.
getting to that point.
I hear you. Obviously, we are proud members of the Hockey Podcast Network. If you haven't already, go over there and check them out. As well, brought to you by No Name Hockey, DraftKings, SeatGeek, Indie Ale House, and our new sponsors, our new partners,
Mhm.
BioSteel. So very exciting news. We're now partnered with BioSteel as well. If you want 20% off, in the comments, in the description area below, you can find what you need to do, what our code is, but it is Sticks in the Six Pod. Make sure you use that for 20% off at BioSteel. And we started a little late here. Obviously, I told you that the kids are getting over fevers.
Mhm.
I'm fighting something off. I know my wife's fighting something off. So it's been a rough week here at the Forbes household. But
That's
um,
January for you. It's
January, right,
January.
right in the heart of it, right in the heart of it, buddy. But we are trying to squeeze one in here as we haven't met up for a couple weeks again.
Mhm.
Obviously, life's been getting in the way a little bit. I try to maintain the YouTube channel a little bit when we can't
Yes.
meet for these nice sessions here where we get to break down our Leafs and break down the NHL and break down all
Mhm.
the hockey news and um, yeah. So, anyways, before we get into the Leafs news and the Leafs content, what you're all here to watch and listen to, off the top of the show, we haven't had to do this in a while, and I love that we haven't had to. But
Yeah.
this is a strong reminder of the kind of shit that is out there in the world, in sports, in just that can surround us at times. The dark clouds that can surround us at times. Anybody who's been on socials knows that at least in the southwestern Ontario area, that there's a lot of noise surrounding the Brantford 99ers under 13 team right now, because there was a group chat in which they entitled it. It looks like it was on Snapchat or whatever. If you have the social media, you'll know it. But it looked as though they entitled the group chat "Kill Tavin." Now, Tavin was a 13-year-old who played for the Brantford 99ers. He was a part of that team, and according to his mother, who made the post, she brought forth some of these screenshots. This 13-year-old kid woke up to these conversations within his group chat with his teammates, called Kill Tavin, where they were talking about how he was going to get beaten up at school. They were going to find people that go to his school because some of these kids on his team don't go to his school. They were going to find kids that go to his school to go and beat him up for them. They were going to step on his throat. They A quick trigger warning here, but they threatened to rape this 13-year-old boy, and this is all stuff that kind of came from a bunch of bullying that has been in place since October, and this is the struggle that I'm having right now, being that I am a parent, but any normal person should be having trouble reading this shit right now. If you go back, I posted on my Facebook. I don't really want to post it to any other socials. It's all over Twitter right now, or X, or whatever you want to call it. But the struggle I'm having right now is that when it was brought to the attention of the coaches, and in particular Coach Sasha Samala. So I mean, it was brought to his attention. It was brought to the attention of the coaching staff who have kids on the team, and they went to Tavin and they asked him, are you sure Are you sure you're right for this team? One, you're victim blaming.
Number two, that's not a question you ask at
Number
all.
two, that should not be your response
Any
anyway,
circumstance.
any circumstance, that should never be your response to something going on within the four walls of your dressing room. You are the guardian, you are the leader, you are the adult in this situation. And not only have you made it 10 times worse, but you've allowed for this shit to happen. And I think that's the most alarming thing to me. What makes it even worse is that when they Tavin's mother brought it to the Brantford Police Department, and the response of the sergeant who was, I guess, overseeing the case was that he gave the kids a stern warning and said, "Kids will be kids." So
Normal kids don't say that.
absolutely
Normal
not.
kids do not have this plan in place to go and bully, harass, and basically assault another kid.
Absolutely
They
not.
do
And
not
I would
have.
tell you, I
Yeah.
would tell you if my kids ever were a part of a conversation like that, there would be significant repercussions
Mm-hmm.
because that's not how we treat other people. It
Never.
goes back to the age-old saying of treat others the way you want to be treated. And to me, there are a number of people that need to answer for this. And it starts with the kids who bullied this. Apparently they bullied Tavin as well as another teammate. Like throwing things at him in the dressing room while he had his back turned. And Tavin put up with this by putting his headphones in and just continue to get dressed for the game. This kid tried out for this team and made it. And this is the kind of bullshit that he's got to put up with.
Yeah.
So the kids have to answer for it. The coaches should never be allowed to coach in Hockey Canada, like any sort of Hockey Canada realm ever again. So Hockey Canada needs to jump all over this.
I was about to say whatever league oversees Southern Ontario.
I believe it's Alliance. I believe it's Alliance. So Alliance should be all over this as well. Alliance needs to put a stop to it.
Just like the GTHL in the past, where there have been similar situations of abuse, bullying, all that stuff. They need to hold this team accountable. They need to have something in place where they need to have that respected sport program and show that none of this is tolerable. It is not acceptable. And it really pains me to see that not even just major junior leagues in general, but leagues like steps below still do not have something in place and still continue to look the other way. That to me is just repulsive.
Oh, 1,000%. But on top of that, like now we're getting into the Brantford PD. And this is where the conversation extends beyond the game, beyond hockey, beyond sport. It now becomes a conversation with the Brantford PD and the sergeant who oversaw this and said, "Kids will be kids." If that was your kid,
would you tolerate that same thing?
What would your response be if somebody was threatening to step on his throat and assault this kid?
Yeah.
Because that is sickening that your response is, "Kids will be kids." That is sickening to me that you went and you gave them warnings. These kids threatened to assault somebody. If it was an adult doing the same thing, would that be the response, is to give them a warning? My guess is no.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is there'd be more significant repercussions. Yeah. Anyways, I first off, big shout out to everybody who shared this story and who's bringing light to this, because that's the way that people are held accountable now.
Yeah.
And for somebody to go on and do this shit in the age of social media in 2025,
you haven't learned your lesson.
What's going on in your head?
I want to just to interrupt you there for a quick second before I lose my thought. It all stems down from the parenting. If the parents aren't holding their kids accountable and they're allowing them to get away with this, that just proves that it's a lost cause. Like the kids learn from the parents and vice versa, and that's what continues to be a problem in society nowadays in any situation. And this is basically one of those examples right now.
So I had one comment shared on my Facebook, and this is from Celine Zadorsky, and she's already sending emails to the president of the Brantford Minor Hockey Association, VP of the Brantford Minor Hockey Association, and the admin as well. It should go to the alliance, the alliance who oversees. OMHA is closer to you out that way. The GTHL, all that kind of stuff. But the alliance should be looking into this as well. The president's name is Corey Waring. So if you are upset about this, and everybody really should be, don't hesitate to send emails out. And I guess the response coming back is, we are currently investigating. This has been happening since October. We are in January. If you are still investigating, there are screenshots of these conversations. You could give the kids' names. I'm not going to because these kids are under 13 and I don't feel comfortable sharing people's
No.
names. But these kids are outright threatening to sexually assault another kid. There's no need to investigate.
You have the
It's
evidence right in front of you. If you
it's
have all
right
those
there in front of you.
screenshots, like what more do you need?
So if anybody is angry, follow suit with Celine.
Yeah.
Get on the horn. Call the Brantford Minor Hockey Association. Call Alliance. Get in their face. Do it. We're like, this is our platform. This is our opportunity to kind of talk about it. So I hope I see a rise in viewers here as well, because I want everyone to look at this and I want everyone to start making people aware. This is happening. I'm in London. This is happening right around the corner from us.
Mm-hmm.
This is happening 40 minutes out. This is disgusting. This is disgusting. And why would any parent want to put their kids in sports when this is the kind of shit that's still going on?
And for years when we've been doing this podcast, we've talked about hockey culture, how there needs to be a drastic change from the bottom up, because we've seen it at all levels: NHL, AHL, overseas, junior, major junior. Clearly, this is still a problem that lingers within hockey itself. And if you're just going to brush this aside and say this is part of the game, it is certainly not part of the game. I call BS right then and there. There should be no excuse for this at all. And again, frankly, like I'm just utterly disgusted by what's happening, what the kid is going through and all that, because no kid should be going through this, especially that young of an age. This is supposed to be what hockey should be about: team bonding, making friends, getting to know each other. And yet the exact opposite is happening. It's been happening for so long that it's just absolutely disgusting right now. And you hope that we said time and time again that we hope people try to learn their lesson and avoid this kind of thing, but clearly it's not, and nobody seems to give a rat's ass about it.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely disgusting. Again, I'm going to stay close to the story, obviously being it right around the corner, but anybody who has the same or similar feelings, I mean, feel free to reach out. I know we talked about it. We talked about who can bring more light to it. I'm sure they're going to be on it. I'm sure they're going to be discussing it as well. But investigating is no longer the answer. There's screenshots out there. This kid has quit the team. There's utter threats,
and essentially he's fearing for his life right now.
Yeah, there's utter threats being released there, and that's not okay. So, if you can bring light to this situation, please, I beg you, as a parent, as a human being, do this for Tavin, do this for Tavin's family, do this for the people that, are flying under the radar because they're getting picked on and bullied and beaten and shit on by people who think that they're better than somebody else. 13 or not, this is unacceptable. Anyways, let's segue out of that. Big trade in the NHL this week, I should say. Mikko Rantanen. I don't think anybody saw this coming, Peter. Mikko Rantanen off to the Carolina Hurricanes in return for, well, it was a three-way deal. The Chicago Blackhawks were essentially there to facilitate the deal. 50% of Mikko Rantanen's final year of his contract.
Gave up a third round pick for it.
Got a third round pick for it. You saw Jack Drury. You saw Mikko Rantanen go one way. You saw Martin Necas go the other way. What are your thoughts on the trade? And thus far, it looks like Necas is playing pretty damn good right now. And sorry, Jack Drury went the other way. Taylor Hall went to Carolina, but Jack Drury's had 2 goals in 3 games since joining, and Martin Necas has fit in pretty well on that power play as well. So your thoughts on the trade? Your thoughts on who might have come out as the early winner?
I mean, it kind of caught us all by surprise because everyone thought that the Taylor Hall to Carolina was just the only one. It'd be like, oh, okay, this could get the ball rolling in terms of movement and everything like that. Then like a few minutes later, I scroll through and I see the freeze bomb that normally comes when there's a message news drop, and it says ranted into Carolina. We're all like, what the hell is going on? I think all of hockey Twitter blew up in that instance where everybody was glued to their phone trying to figure out who was going the other way, what the outcome was. And lo and behold, it was Natchez, and then there was another player involved, which ended up being Jack Drury. And yeah, absolutely crazy, just absolute bonkers of a deal. I mean, you rarely see you see big moves happen, like you see big name players get dealt. But this was totally unexpected, and it was the fact that maybe there was a whole. Obviously, it came down to Rantanen's contract and negotiations. Obviously, he wanted to be paid in and around or just above Nathan MacKinnon, and let's face it, I don't care who you are, you're not going to get more than Nathan MacKinnon. You're not going to get eventually more than Cale Makar. So obviously, they were in that situation where he didn't have a move clause, or there was kind of like a limited situation where Carolina was a team that he could be moved to, and then Eric Tulsky took advantage of that situation. And for Colorado to get something in return in a situation that was getting very dicey is absolutely a big win on their part. You still get a decent player at possibly a contract that you could afford later on, a little bit more than Mikko Rantanen. Got a good young player in Jack Drury. Already seeing the results paying off right now. Even Rantanen, he needed to fit in, but now he's starting to pick it up with Carolina as well. Taylor Hall fitting in as well. So ultimately, this is just a crazy move. I can't remember a big name deal that just came out of the blue like this in some time. I'm having a hard time to draw it. I'm pretty sure they're examples, but yeah, definitely one move that was just caught everyone off guard. And as for a winner, tough to say. I think both teams won. Carolina gets really, really deep. They've been wanting to go for big name hunting and adding a elite star level talent for a deep playoff run for some time. They've added some moves here and there, but nothing that really pushed the needle. Mikko Rantanen pushes that needle for them. It makes him a little bit more deeper. It makes him a true contender up front. Only question is what's going to happen in goaltending. Is Frederik Andersen going to be healthy? Are you going to rely on Pyotr Kochetkov for a while? Who knows what's going to happen there? But overall, they got the talent to go forward. Colorado, again, you're building still technically for the future, and you're getting a decent player in return that's still having a strong, coming off a bridge deal. Natchez is looking or fitting in very well on basically the top six for Colorado. Again, Colorado probably be a little bit cheaper option for them to sign him or extend him if and when they choose to do so. And Jack Drury is just a fine young player. He's got a lot of potential coming up, and being in that like bottom six role for them is already paying off dividends right now. So to me, it's a well-balanced trade. It's a well-balanced hockey trade with star-studded players going the other way, and it's well-balanced. So the only question I have is why is Chicago getting in there to retain money for absolutely nothing? I mean, you get a third-round pick.
I'm glad you closed it out with that.
I'm just like, that's the one question that I have. If you know you were probably going to retain salary, at least ask a little bit more than just a third-rounder. Yeah, I know you're rebuilding. I know you got the pick. I know you got some cap space, but come on.
I was gonna do a YouTube short with like my face beside a toilet bowl and say, this is how the Chicago Blackhawks should look right now after that trade. They got absolutely hosed. If you're the only single reason why that trade happened, and you got a third-round pick.
If you're a facilitator trying to help out, you need to ask a little bit more.
First-round pick unprotected, no question. That trade does not happen without you. Mm-hmm. That trade doesn't happen without you. If I'm Bedard right now, I'm fucking livid. I am livid.
Did you see that Chris Farley meme where it's just like Bedard seeing Rantanen on the payroll but not on the roster sheet, and it's Chris Farley going from like happy and joyous to like sad and being what? Yeah. What? And I'm like, obviously you got to do that because that's a classic Chris Farley moment right there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like it the whole thing doesn't make sense to me. I was talking to my dad afterwards because he's a big Chicago fan, and I'm like, a third-round pick? A third-round pick. Mm-hmm. That's what they got. It absolutely blew my mind that they got involved in this trade for a third-round pick. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But
now, if you're another team looking at that and being like, okay, well, I don't know if you're going to try and like fleece them again, because I think the GM knows that probably he's going to ask a little bit more. But what happens when Ryan Donato, who's basically a trade target because he's on TSN's trade bait board, what's going to happen when he's made available? Mm-hmm. Are you going to get a deal worth of what you're paying for in the moment right now?
Round pick.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's going to happen with that? Because obviously a team is going to put forth a deal, and if it seems fair or if it works out for them and not for you, and you still agree to it, that's on you.
Yeah.
Because you want to get every last value, kind of like, I'm not trying to compare this to Brandon Hagel, but remember when Hagel was popping off and Tampa Bay paid that price for him?
Yeah.
Ryan Donato's having a damn good season. Like, he's already at 15 goals, and he's one of the more productive players on a really bad Hawks team.
I was gonna say, well, somebody's got to pop off for that team because it's been ugly. It's been ugly.
And we know Bedard has had a down year, but to see the production from Ryan Donato basically improves his value as a trade commodity. And if you're going to lowball that and you agree to that, again, that's kind of on you right there.
So the trade, when I saw the trade come across, I was obviously shocked, as many of us were. I think Brandon wasn't. I think Brandon was just as shocked as the rest of us. But there was no real conversation about him getting moved. Nor was there a lot of conversation surrounding, the details of a potential extension with the Colorado Avalanche. Now he's come out and he said, I offered to take less. But for me, for Carolina, this stinks of Jake Gensel. Like, this stinks of Jake Gensel, where they go out,
really,
they acquire a guy like Mikko Rantanen, and he doesn't re-sign at the end of the year, and then you're left with nothing.
They're gambling with that, yeah. But then again, right? Carolina
there's no extension in place.
Yeah.
Their cap, there's a lot of money to play with following this year, because they do have a lot of UFAs coming off the books, including, I believe, Brent Burns is up at the end of the year. Frederik Andersen's up at the end of the year. So there's a lot of money to play with. Mm-hmm. But if you're Mikko Rantanen, I mean, you're kind of the star that Carolina's been looking for the last number of years. To play with Aho.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if I'm not set on him re-signing in Carolina.
There's always that risk.
But there's going to be money out there, right? Like the cap is jumping. There's going to be money out there that
teams are going to do that. They're going to fork over money for him.
1,000%. And he's going to have the potential. He's going to be one of the top guys on the market, if not the top guy in the market. He is going to get overpaid for. We haven't seen him play without Nathan MacKinnon in his career. Safe to say?
Really safe. And actually, it's kind of funny because some of his numbers without MacKinnon are way less in terms of like possession metrics are down without MacKinnon than he is with MacKinnon. So you got to see, if you see that the production kind of increase with Aho, chemistry's there, fellow countrymen, they played together in the past. You want to see that before you could fork over a little bit more than what you're going to give MacKinnon.
Right. So in essence, there's a lot of question marks surrounding the long-term effects of this deal for the Carolina Hurricanes. If that's the case and he doesn't re-sign, I think it's a no-brainer. Colorado wins this deal. Necas, Drury, two solid pieces to help you kind of take that next step in restructuring what you have on your roster. If he does re-sign, I think the conversation's got to be, well, maybe Carolina does win this deal long-term. I'm sure one of us at the Hockey Writers will look back on it in 5 years and make that call. But it was certainly a shock. I think it's short term. It's a great ad for Carolina going into the playoffs. It's a guy that, we've talked so many times about Carolina needing that extra little push offensively. There's your guy. It comes down now to goaltending and defense. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the puck, Colorado gets two solid pieces. Necas has been, up and down throughout his career, and Jack Drury is just kind of coming into his own right now. So a lot to see from that aspect of it as well. A little shocked to see that that's kind of what they got for him, but at the same time, you're talking about a guy who's a pending free agent. You don't know what his future holds, and
you essentially give up star winger for star winger.
Yes, and the Colorado
or one that's
Avalanche,
emerging as one.
Right, and the Colorado Avalanche didn't believe that they could re-sign Mikko Rantanen. Mm-hmm. That's what it all comes down to.
It's funny that you brought up the Gensel thing too, because we usually agree with a lot of things on here. I kind of disagree in the sense that even if he does move on, it's still a move you had to make. You still don't give up the farm system. You gave up. I don't think you gave up a whole lot of picks in terms of first or anything like that as well. So it kind of does seem like a bit of a win. And comparing Rantanen to Gensel, give me Mikko Rantanen every day of the week over Jay Gensel. I feel like he's got a little bit more, not necessarily street cred or anything like that, but I feel like I would take Rantanen a little bit more over Gensel. So I think this seems like a little bit more of a win. I get the similarities are there because of that situation where he could walk, but it's one that you needed to make, and you really got a star-studded player better than what you got last year.
Okay, so here's your hot take for this pod. I don't think Carolina. I don't think Carolina makes it out of the first round of the playoffs.
Ooh, spicy. That is a spicy one. I ain't gonna lie, because they're one of those betting favorites right now after that trade.
Yeah,
But
you got to look at goaltending.
yeah,
Look at look at all aspects of their lineup aside from what they have up front now with Rantanen. I mean, you said it. You essentially traded a budding star winger for somebody who's in their prime right now.
Yeah.
Right? They're established. They're in their prime. They've won a cup. You get a piece, but you've given up another piece of your offense. Nekesh was the reason they were doing as well as they were doing to start the year. The reason they had to make this trade was because they weren't doing as well as they were to start the year.
Yeah.
And what they've given up is the piece that made them what they were at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of question marks. I think on the back end, Brent Burns certainly isn't having the year that he's had in the past. Jacob Slavin, like it can be argued that, he kind of flies under the radar. I still think he's having a down year compared to what he's had in the last 2 seasons. And then, the question mark in net.
That's the biggest one.
Definitely the biggest one. Seems to go down at playoff time every single season. So if you can count on your secondary goaltending and your secondary scoring, then maybe you can get it past the first round. I don't see it with how well Washington's playing, how well that division's playing. I don't know. It's I don't know. That's my hot take of the podcast, and I'll happily replay this once they make it past the first round or whatever. But
you need to start doing that one hot take per week.
Yeah, I'm feeling it this week. I'm feeling it this week. So, and I'm already heated from the start of the show. So I can get behind that a little bit better as well. But, anyways, let's jump over to our beloved Maple Leafs. We got to talk about the crowd. Now, you and I, obviously, we've done 5 seasons of this podcast based around the Toronto Maple Leafs. So given us being in a lower bowl seat, affording those $500 to $600 to $700 seats, I'm sure we would stand up, jerseys on, be like Kurt from Calgary, and jump up in a full blown Superman cape of sports of Leafs memorabilia.
Just chug back a couple beers,
Yeah, that said, Toronto has always, and I shouldn't say has always, especially in the last, let's say, 3 decades, the Toronto Maple Leafs have had a very corporate lower bowl. There's a reason why they're called the Platinum Ghosts. They don't show up at the beginning of periods, and they rarely stand on their feet and scream at the top of their lungs for their beloved Maple Leafs. They're there to do business. They're there to catch a game. They're there to feel like they're in their riches. So, with that in mind, the captain, Auston Matthews, and Mitch Marner called out the Platinum Ghosts in recent comments, especially after the Ryan Reeves fight, regarding their energy and what they bring to the home rink. I mean, we see the fans travel on the road to Ottawa. We see the fans travel on the road to Detroit and liven up those buildings for the Maple Leafs, but they can't get it done in their own barn. What are your thoughts on the comments? And are you standing with Matthews and Marner, or where you sit on this, Peter?
I am glad that you heard it from the the 2-star players from their mouths, at being like, you know what? And again, Ryan Reeves had a fight. I didn't think he needed it. Maybe it was kind of a little bit dead, but at the same time, it was a hell of a tilt, right? How are you not going to feel motivated after that? Reeves and Olivier, obviously you got the veteran enforcer with one coming up as being a tough customer to go up against. It was a very, very damn good fight, whether you like it or not. And how are you just going to sit there in your seat and just be like, oh yeah, let's take a look at the spreadsheet on my phone kind of thing, and you just missed one of the best tilts of the year so far. Like, I don't understand why this is I mean, we understand why. Obviously, cash grab, make it inaccessible for just all the suits and everything, or inaccessible for everyone else other than the suits. But yeah, I'm glad the 2-star players called it out because you need more energy. What's going to happen come playoff time? And you're going to get possibly the same old suits in those seats and everyone else surrounding them that branch out in the upper and lower bowls. They're the ones making all the noise. When I was at that Utah game, I saw the lower bowl. Yeah, you saw some fans that really wanted to do or really let the fandom know they were cheering on. But for most of the game, it was dead. And even so, even when there were like moments that were like ooh and ahs or whatever, the upper bowl was the one, making that echo throughout the stadium. And it's kind of funny because Jason Demers called them out as well about the atmosphere and how it's completely dead. And he's given some examples himself as an opposing player coming into that building. And I can understand why he hates being there because he can't stand it. Obviously, when you're an opposing player, you want those fans, or not that you relish at the fact, but you want those fans like jeering against you kind of thing. You want your home crowd to be behind you 100% and against the opposing team. Against Montreal, it sounded like there were more Maple Leaf fans there than Habs fans. There were definitely more Leafs fans in Ottawa than there were Senators fans. Why can't you replicate that? And even this is not just, Matthews, Marner, and Demers calling out the fans, but essentially calling out their own ownership in a way where if you're going to put fans in the seats, at least make sure they're the ones that can get you pumped up, can get you energetic, and can be behind you 110% of the way. Mm-hmm. Not just standing there, chatting up a storm, talking about your business ventures or what you have planned for the stock market and everything like that. You're there to watch a damn hockey game. Put business aside, actually make it about the fans. And if the Maple Leafs lose corporate value because of that, because you're actually giving it to fans, so be it. Like, who gives a crap about the suits that basically don't do anything? Like, really, it really comes down to the fact that it's become an inaccessible atmosphere for a lot of people. Even for upper bowl tickets, it is damn expensive, even for games that don't have a marquee matchup. Like, they really need to do something about the ticket pricing, making it a little bit more accessible and giving fans more access than the corporate sponsorships. I get that you have to have sponsors. I get you got to have that, but put them in the private booths up top. Save the seats for the actual fans. And that's basically where I'm at right now, because your top two players called out the atmosphere. They're unhappy that the fact that nobody's cheering for them in the lower bowl. Opposing players are calling them out. So now this has become or being shed to light. And if you're MLSC right now, or, whoever's taking ownership, I believe it's Rogers has a majority, or Bell or whatever, you got to find something to do something to make it a little bit better. So that way you can get those fans into those seats and make sure they're the true diehards that are there to watch the game and not just talk about business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the one thing I'm going to say is whoever's in charge, this is what they're worried about.
Always,
right?
It's always about money.
And the money's coming from those corporate seats. Those monies are coming, like, those are the guys that are going underneath afterwards in between periods, having 2 or 3 drinks, come back out, 7 minutes into the next period. The one thing I will say is make the game affordable for people. Yeah. I did a trip with my wife years ago now, the last year that Nassau Coliseum was open, and we went down to Nassau, paid $60 US, and at the time the dollar wasn't 1.44 either. But paid $60 to sit 5 rows from the ice in our Leafs gear, and it was and got the hotel, paid for gas, all that, paid for food. All of that was more affordable than getting 2 seats at a Leafs game lower bowl.
Yeah.
It was more affordable than getting 2 seats Leafs game upper bowl in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like, this is the part that's insane to me, is that you don't want to put another team within your vicinity. You don't want another NHL team in, let's say, Hamilton, where it might be more.
Yeah.
You are the team, and you're making it unaffordable. Like, people have to remortgage their houses to take the family to the game now. It's insane. My son, this whole idea of hockey is for everyone. My son will likely never see a live Leaf game unless we win tickets.
Yeah, That's
because
basically all you're banking on.
I'm not forking over $1,000 to take my son to a live Leaf game. I just simply I can't justify that.
I still remember back in the day when tickets were reasonably affordable, like early thousands, before the ticket pricing before the lockout was absolutely, it's kind of reasonable. Post then, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And now you're at the point where it's like, you're going to probably have nobody show up because it's going to get too expensive at one point.
But you're talking about a guy who has, like, I've kept Leaf stats since I was like 12 years old, watching the game on my parents' TV in their bedroom when we were being babysat, because I just wanted to watch the game and keep the numbers. Same. And now I'm 37 years old, and I can't justify paying that kind of money to go see a Leaf game in person.
Never. Yeah.
Right? Like, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Unless it's a gift or you're winning it as part of like you won season Leaf tickets. Cool. Great. Yeah. Great. Let's do it. But until then, not happening.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I'm on board with you. I'm glad that it was two of your top players that called out this organization and called out the fans. And, maybe you reverse it. Maybe you put those corporate guys up top. They can still enjoy the game. They can still go get drinks, and they're watching the game from up top. And guess what? You get to see the real fans on TV. You get to see the real fans up close and personal with the players. They interact with the players. Every other city you go to, these fans are down in the bottom of the bowl,
rock, paper, scissors, candy for sticks kind of thing.
You
see that here, but
rarely though, right? Like,
rarely,
and they're just down there for pregame skate, and then they got to go up to their 500 level gondola, right? Like, I was just in Buffalo, and like the crowd is so different in Buffalo than it is in Toronto, and I was enthralled. I'm not a Sabres fan, but I was sitting there taking in the game, enthralled, having conversations with the people around me, getting to know how they became Sabres fans, all that kind of stuff. And it was such a different experience than going to a Leaf game at Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think it's great that they were called out. Do I think it's going to change anything? Unfortunately, no. I hope it does. I hope that there's an opportunity to take my kids to a game one time and not fork over, $1,500. And we'll see what comes of it. And for Jason Demers to get involved as well and say what he had to say, like, that's embarrassing when you've got opposing players coming in saying, like, I fucking hate playing there because you're not playing for the real fans. The real fans are up top. They can barely see who you are. Right? Like, anyways, it's disappointing. It's disappointing to say the least. Before we jump over to the next thing here, just a quick word from our friends over at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. I know with the Super Bowl now 2 weeks out, Saquon Barkley is a big pick for the Philadelphia Eagles to rush for 150 and score a touchdown. We'll see what happens against those Kansas City Chiefs. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Well, a lot has been made of William Nylander over the last little bit. His comments about the three losses in a row. His comments about the 3 wins in a row. It's 3 games, not a big deal. He's the breakaway king. What is your take about his comments lately and being, the guy? He's been backing it up lately for us.
I remember last week we were talking about Marner's comments and Nylander's comments about, what's the big deal? Well, I thought we played well. Well, we had a different take back then. But in William Nylander's case, I think we could give him a little bit more of a leash and a little bit more leeway because whenever he does say something, he backs it up. And there's no doubt about that. And it's evident the last few weeks or the last few games, sorry, where he's had those breakaway opportunities, those high grade A scoring chances. And even then against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who I know they lost, but he had ample chances and ample amounts of scoring opportunities in on alone and just couldn't bury it. Unfortunately, that game was they couldn't find one goal. There was just bad puck luck all around, but also the Maple Leafs didn't defend well. So when I saw Nylander have that breakaway and he was about to pot it into the empty net, but then it just barely doesn't even go in. It hits something. That was basically the Maple Leafs game in a nutshell for that game against Columbus. But when Nylander says, what's the big deal? Let's relax a bit. Maybe we should trust him a little bit more, because whenever he does say something, he eventually does back it up. And it's instantly just like that right away. And you saw it with all the breakaway goals, the chances, and even Berube basically saying, or someone asking about Nylander breakaways, and he's like, who? Breakaway king. Oh, right. Yeah, him. So what amazes me is how he has that confidence to just sneak in undetected every time to get that first couple bursts of speed. And when there's traffic around him, he's already in attack mode and he's already pushing himself ahead. Again, there was that game against Montreal where, traffic or there was a crowd at the blue line. Lane Hudson has it. He makes a poke check and he's already in motion. Once he had that poke check, he's already gone and he blew past and fended off Hudson like, back off, rookie kind of thing. I'm going to show you how it's done. And basically he goes in and scores the breakaway goal. So to me, the confidence, the ability to find those routes, the timely stick lifts, to get in and cut defenders off is absolutely impressive on how he manages breakaways and to get that separation and go in all alone and just have that space in between him. And we even saw that against the Boston Bruins where, him and Nyes had that give and go play. Nyes stops and then Nylander's going and then he gives a little chip up, goes in, 5-hole goal between Jeremy Swayman. Yeah, what he's doing is phenomenal right now. And maybe in terms of players that, that say something, he's the one that backs it up every single time. So maybe we should just trust him a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare to see these guys back it up, I guess, is what we're getting at. Like, we've seen them say what they need to say after playoff loss, after playoff loss, after playoff loss.
Yeah.
And we come back and we feel like, nothing's fulfilled here. We need to see more action. William Nylander's done exactly that. Like he said, 3 losses, not a big deal. 3 wins, not a big deal. He goes out and he scores. He's still top 5 in goal scoring, 28 goals behind Draisaitl's 35 to lead the league. So, 7 goals back. It's not really a unmanageable pace. At the same time, he just has this nonchalance to him that I think Leafs Nation hate to see because you want them to be honed in on hockey all the time, and people are afraid of that kind of laid back mentality. But that's William Nylander. That's the way that he is.
Thrives on that.
He thrives off
He's
that.
Chill.
This is the perfect character and personality to have in the Toronto market, and that's
where they
why
don't care about the buzz, all about the attention.
That's why there's going to be times where we're going to get frustrated as hell with this player. We're going to give him hell for doing his roll-offs or whatever the hell he does. But at the same time, this is why it's so exciting that William Nylander has re-signed in Toronto. Yeah. This is why William Nylander needs to be in Toronto, is because he thrives off of that. He thrives off the idea that people are pissed off with his chillax attitude.
He kind of likes being the pseudo-villain kind of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And he backs it up. And he's done exactly that all season long. He's right there with Mitch Marner in terms of the team lead for points. He's exciting. He's bounced around the lineup like crazy. He's had no consistency in the lineup, and he still manages to get it done. So, I'm pumped that he's here to stay for a little while, and Put a little bit more trust in Willie. Trust in Willie. We'll put in a sign up top here. Trust in Willie.
Trust in Willie.
Um,
Again, there's only one player that kind of backed it up in the playoffs too. That's Willie. So he's.
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that commercial with the Cakesters, but he's Willie good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no kidding. Anyways, last note before we close it out here. I've got a big important date at 3:00. Gotta go pick up my beautiful boy from school. But Brandon Saad has now cleared waivers. On another note as well, Philip Grubauer is now on waivers as well for the Seattle Kraken, so worth noting as well. But Brandon Saad has cleared waivers. Still a relatively big contract for the Leafs to take on, but biggest thing that they need is depth scoring. And right now it seems like they're looking for somebody up the middle. You've got the Athletics top 10 there. Ryan O'Reilly leads the list. What's your breakdown of what the Leafs need? Is it a centerman? And who on this list would be your top target?
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the top 10 list, I got it because they're talking about it on Overdrive, and it's a very strong list. You got Ryan O'Reilly, Brock Nelson, Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Charlie Coyle is a bit of a surprise right there. Mikael Granlund, Scott Laughton, Nick Bjugstad, Nazem Kadri, and Ryan Strome. I'm not going to break down every single one of them because obviously, realistically, all of them could be a fit. But again, I when Ryan O'Reilly's name came up and potentially being a fit for Toronto, I just don't see it because he left for a particular reason. And he's already halfway through his contract, 2 years. You're going to expect him to come back for another 2. I don't know. I just don't see that happening. I wouldn't put him as a number one target. To me, yeah, again, Brandon Saad would have been an ideal guy because he's a guy that can produce offensively in that middle 6 third line role. But again, contract wasn't ideal. I would have liked him. But at the same time, you still have energy guys on there like Yanni Gourde, Trent Frederick, Mikael Granlund's having a fantastic season in San Jose despite being on a bad team. Could you look at him in terms of coming in? The Maple Leafs have acquired about him in the past. Same with Scott Laughton, two-way energy, physical type of player. Is he going to be an option? Nazem Kadri, again, we talk about money. There's going to have to be a lot of salary retention on there for that to happen. Again, would love to see a Nas reunion. It's just unlikely. It's kind of like the Ryan O'Reilly thing. I think those are like more or less than 10% of actually happening than likely happening.
Hey, I heard Chicago will retain 50% for a 3rd round pick.
There you go. Hey, maybe Maple Leafs could throw that Chicago's way. But even so, even Elliot Friedman basically came out and said that Luke Kunin could be a name for the Maple Leafs where he has, double-digit goals in over his career multiple times. This is a fighter. He's physical. He's engaging. He's got good speed. Same with Ryan Donato. I think Ryan Donato could be. That's why I brought him up earlier. I think Ryan Donato could be a good fit in terms of that middle 6 because you need that depth scoring right now. The 4th line is basically invisible or ineffective, especially with Ryan Reeves on the ice. And I know you came out with that mauling the Maple Leafs piece about Ryan Reeves' role being basically ineffective. A shout out to you. Great piece, by the way. Just overall, you need a spark, you need energy, and you need guys that can put the puck in the net any way that they can, whether it's a shot, whether it's a greasy goal, attacking the net. You need to do that because those are the goals that are going to win you games in the playoffs. So, there's a lot that ideally you want a middle 6 average producer that could get you a decent amount of goals and a decent amount of points, but you also need those energy guys. So if you could get one guy in the top 6 or one energy guy or one of those guys combined together, perfect. But there are a lot of options out there that could work out. And I think if you're going for goals, maybe Mikael Granlund or offense, Mikael Granlund, Ryan Donato could be one of those 2 guys. Maybe Trent Frederick because he's got a bit of that edge as well as some offensive ability as well. Who knows? But if you're going like depth, Yanni Gourde is a fantastic addition. Even Chris Tanev, I thought when the Maple Leafs were scouting Seattle and New York, the Islanders before, I thought they were going out or taking a good look at Gourde and Tanev. Lo and behold, Gourde is one of those names. Maple Leafs were at a Boston game as well, so maybe they were looking at a guy like Trent Frederick or Charlie Coyle. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, the center depth is important, but also if you could get a guy on the wing, that's going to be more ideal. So that way you can spread that depth out, especially on the left side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when everybody's back and healthy, I think out on the wing might be somebody that you look at, especially with the unknown surrounding Nick Robertson as well as we get into the end of the season here. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun few week. I guess I should
Fun
say
lead up.
fun month and a half leading
Yeah.
up to the NHL trade deadline. Um, Lots to talk about around these Leafs right now. They're getting set for a game against Minnesota tonight, still leading the Atlantic Division by a single point with a game in hand on the Florida Panthers.
All
So
four. Stolarz is close to making his return, but Tavares was seen with the blue jersey. Knies was
mhm.
skating. Pacioretty was skating as well. So they're three regulars on the verge of coming back possibly this weekend as well. So that's
Hope
a good
is
sign.
Yeah, hope is Tavares and Patches should be back tonight. That's
Mm-hmm.
the hope. It hasn't been guaranteed yet, but that's the hope, and they're hoping that Nyes will be back
Saturday.
Saturday as well. So that'll be good for the Maple Leafs to get all of them back, and as well as you mentioned, Stolarz is a big name that they need to get back in the lineup as well. Um, they haven't played in 4 days. They're going up
They
against the
got that
Minnesota
rest.
Wild. Philip Gustafson starting in net for the Minnesota Wild because tomorrow night, Marc-Andre Fleury makes his final start in Montreal,
Mm-hmm.
his hometown Montreal. Obviously, going to be an emotional night for him. So, good thing he's not
Right
starting
pick.
tonight. He
Right
can
pick.
he can get it done in Montreal tomorrow night. Outside of that, Peter, it's been a crazy 2 weeks. I know
Mm-hmm.
we haven't sat down too often over the last 2 weeks, but it's been good to get you back on here. We talked a little bit about
Absolutely.
what's going
Likewise,
on
man.
around the hockey world, around with our Maple Leafs. Again, make sure if you're out there and you've seen what's going on with this Taven, this 13-year-old kid in Brantford, make sure you share the story. Let's bring light to this shit. Let's make it stop. Let's get it out of the game. Let's get it
Yeah.
out of the world. These kids do not deserve to deal with this shit. At
Mm-hmm.
13 years old, they do not deserve to deal with it. Outside of that, make sure you check out the Hockey Podcast Network. Some great shows over at the Hockey Podcast Network, as well as DraftKings, SeatGeek. Use code Sticks in the Six for $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek, and our new partners, BioSteel.
BioSteel.
Sticks in the Six Pod. Use that code for 20% off any order on BioSteel. Outside of that, 4 nights off. Now we're back. Go Leafs, go. You're up against Minnesota tonight. Until next week, episode 187. That's it for Peter and I here on Sticks in the Six.